All right, let's see if the YouTube is functioning properly today. I am going to give it a minute and allow it time. It's not even 5:30 yet, so we'll give it more time. A little bit of sunburn in between here. And let's see if the reverse will work today. And no, it will not. Okay. Well, this is going to be interesting. No highlight. All right. Okay. So now we don't have any. This is about to be funny. It will not let me get out of the green screen at all. That's unfortunate today. Flip it. Nope, that's not working. And lighting. Nope. What happens if I hide the video? Nope. Okay, so we have no ability whatsoever today, which I think is hilarious. After I spent 40 minutes redoing all my graphics for today. Okay, nevertheless, here we are today. We are talking about apologizing when you are wrong. So let's go ahead and get our deep breathing in and bring that down. And we're going to take 3 inhales and exhales on my countdown of 3, 2, 1. And yeah, let's do this. 3, 2, 1. All right, today's topic is apologize when you are wrong. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Dr. Donna Louise Thomas-Rodgers, daughter of Leslie Darnell Thomas, granddaughter of Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, and great-granddaughter of Levi Thomas. Welcome to your morning mental workout. YouTube has decided today that we will have no background and we'll have a green screen background, but that's okay. Because, yes. All right. So, apologize when you are wrong is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. And here is the Dr. Donna quote from my book. Apologizing doesn't weaken your ability to lead. As always, ensure that you have some water because this is a mental workout. And in that, you're going to be using your brain's ability. You have an Uncle Levi. Okay. Well, my Levi Thomas would have been born in the late 1800s. And so, yeah, that part. Okay. So let's go and get into the brain principles for today with regards to real leadership and apologizing when you are wrong, based upon principles of real leadership that I developed. So, based upon Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers' principles of real leadership, apologizing when you are wrong is more than just a social courtesy. It's a neuroscience backed act of accountability, emotional intelligence, and trust building. So, from a brain perspective, this involves an integrated network of cognitive control, emotional regulation, and social cognition. And we're going to throw some empathy circuits in to boot. Now, what I would like to say is how this became a principle of real leadership is because I did not like apologizing. I know my background. Okay. So, Nola, you must have just joined. I spent 2 minutes and 38 seconds attempting to get to the correct background. YouTube is not cooperating with me this morning. And so this is the option that we have. And even though I spent 40 minutes this morning making the graphics for the background, it is not going to be there today. So this is the green screen background that we have today. It is not giving me the option. So I have two options this morning. I can get out of the live and not have it connected to the actual live, or I can, and now, okay, I can get out of the live and start over and attempt to have the graphics there, or I can continue with the live that I've scheduled. And so I've made the decision that the background will be the background because the show must go on. So as I mentioned, the reason why the principle of real leadership, apologize when you are wrong, is one of the principles of real leadership, is because I did not like apologizing. I would have preferred to eat live insects or anything else before I apologized to you, because I thought saying I'm sorry or I apologize meant that I was weak. It meant that I was sorry, and that's only what suckers do. Part of that is because I grew up in Detroit, in the hood, in a toxic household. So the last thing you do is apologize, especially when you're wrong. You don't do that. You do everything but apologize. So you let them feel how they feel. But what I've learned along the way, this leadership path that I am on, is that apologizing doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong. It gives you the ability to say, I did these actions, they were wrong, and I am apologizing for these actions, and I'm going to learn and grow from it, and I'm going to move forward. So that is the context in which we are speaking today. Real leader principles are backed by neuroscience, and so everything that I'm saying you can attribute to the brain, which means that you can actually do it or stop doing it because it is connected to the brain. Okay. Number one is the prefrontal cortex, and this is for your executive decision making. Now, the role of the prefrontal cortex, especially for the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex regions, it evaluates the situation, recognizes personal fault, and makes deliberate choices to apologize. Now, the leadership link to this is in Real Leadership. This is the accountability hub where self-awareness meets ethical decision making. So when you are in the prefrontal cortex and you are focused on apologizing, you have the ability to understand your own self-awareness and your own decision making. Give me one moment. Okay. Number two is the anterior cingulate cortex, and this is for conflict monitoring. And the role in this is that it detects the internal conflict between your ego protection, and that's why people can't apologize when they are wrong, is because the amygdala is hijacked and they want to protect their ego, and relationship repair. So it helps weighs the discomfort of admitting fault against the long-term benefits of trust. So the Real Leadership link for this is in Real Leaders, the ACC supports owning the moment instead of avoiding it. So what happens is you are in a relationship with someone, you know someone, you've done something wrong, and you have two choices to make. You're going to protect your ego, which is what I used to do, and say, nope, absolutely not. I'm not admitting that I'm wrong. Or I believe that this relationship is bigger than my ego, so let me repair it. I'm going to own this moment of doing something that I shouldn't have done, said something that I shouldn't have said, offended someone, or something to that effect. And now instead of avoiding it. So unaccountable people avoid apologizing. Or if they do, they use a caveat. I'm sorry, but I apologize, but, or they explain it away instead of simply saying, I was wrong and I apologize. So what happens is if your ego is big, that means you have low confidence, low self-esteem, and a big ego. You will not be able to apologize when you are wrong. However, when you are a real leader and you understand the bigger picture and be the best is your objective, then you're actually going to apologize when you are wrong. Number three is the next brain region that's used is the amygdala, and this is for emotional signaling. Now, the role is it processes emotional salience such as guilt, regret, or empathy for the other person's hurt. That is when you have a high functioning, emotionally regulated system inside of the limbic system, which is located in the temporal lobe. So that means when your prefrontal cortex is in charge and your amygdalas are regulated, you have the ability to have empathy. Now, the leadership link is real leaders learn to regulate the left amygdala to manage defensiveness, allowing for a calm, genuine apology. So, what takes place is your ego is all wrapped up in it when you're unaccountable. The last thing you're going to do is apologize. But when you have a high functioning brain where the prefrontal cortex is in charge, your left amygdala is going to manage your defensiveness and it's going to allow you to give a sincere apology. So you're not going to, when the person says, well, when you did this, my feelings were hurt. And you're going to say, well, my feelings was hurt too. And you ain't the only one to get, that's the right amygdala and a deregulated emotional center. But when the person says my feelings were hurt, when you say that, okay, I can understand how my behavior, my actions, the things that I did or said made you feel that way. I apologize for that. Next is number 4. So this is the insular cortex, and it's for empathy and self-awareness. So the role in the insular cortex is it senses your own emotional discomfort and picks up on the emotional state of the other person. Now that's external anxiety. So when you are picking up on someone else's anxiety, it's coming from the outside in. So now you're emotionally discomforted, and so are they. And so that's why most apologies in the land of Loserville with the unaccountable people always seems to go left. Because and see, this is why I don't apologize, because, and now everybody is emotional. So when you do it properly, that doesn't take place. And so the leadership link is this. Dr. Donna, that's me, emphasizes empathy as an active skill. And so the insula makes apologies feel sincere rather than mechanical. Good morning, Lola. So you're not going to say, I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. I won't do it again. That's not a sincere apology and it's not empathetic. And so you will say, you know what, this morning when I snapped at you, I apologize for snapping at you. That was misdirected anger. I do apologize. That was wrong of me. So it's totally different. Totally different. The person now understands it. You're not trying to explain it away. You're literally saying, I was mad at something else and it ain't had nothing to do with you. So I apologize that you were on the receiving end of my anger. I apologize. And it allows you to understand the person like, oh, okay, cool. Because I'm like, well, why was you mad at me? And what was you doing? And yes. So the insula will allow you to have empathy for the fact that you snapped at somebody and it was misdirected. Next is the temporal parietal junction. And this is perspective taking. And the temporal parietal junction is where the temporal lobe and the parietal lobe meet in the brain. And so the role is it enables you to imagine how your actions impacted someone else, supporting the wording and the tone of your apology. So the leadership link to this is perspective taking is essential in real leadership for maintaining respect and relational trust. And so we know that treat people with dignity and respect is one of the 74 principles of real leadership, as well as establish trust and be trustworthy. So where the temporal parietal junction is, what's happening from a leadership perspective is you are taking perspective from the other person's perspective. How did that make them feel when I yelled at them? If they're on the receiving end of that, if I did something to them, whether it was intentional, unintentional, that part doesn't matter. How would they perceive that? And that allows you to say, okay, I got it. In order for me to continue this relationship, I'm going to have to apologize. And I didn't treat you with dignity and respect. And for some reason, if you've lied to somebody, you have to say, you know, I lied to you and I've betrayed your trust. I apologize for that. And how can we move forward? Next is the hippocampus and the context and memory integration. And so this region of the brain and its role is it retrieves the facts of what happened and integrates them with current social context so the apology addresses the right events. And the leadership link is that it ensures that the apologies are specific and meaningful and not vague or generic. So, yeah, remember that time when I hurt your feelings? My bad. That's not that's not specific enough. Remember that time when we were out and I had a little too much to drink, and so I said some offensive things to you on that Friday night, Friday, August 13th, 2012. I apologize. I have since gone to 12 Steps program. I have finished my program. I'm a super sponsor and everything else. So please forgive me. I'd like to make amends for that because that was wrong of me. So you don't give it vague generics. You say you had on a blue shirt, I had on a red dress. We went to Applebee's to have dinner, and I popped off and acted like a damn fool. I apologize. So now the person understands that you went all the way back to the actual event, and now you are actually apologizing for your actions. And then finally, number 7 is the ventral striatum, and that's the reward processing. And so the role is this: it reinforces the positive emotional payoff of repairing relationships, making future apologies easier to give. And the leadership link is this: it strengthens the real leader habit of resolving conflict quickly. Now, we know that the real leader principle, handle conflict when it occurs, is very effective, and it strives for collaboration and win-win. So when you actually apologize as soon as possible, in the moment if possible, what happens is you have a reward from the ventral striatum, which is releasing dopamine, and it is allowing for that moment to not fester. The longer you let an apology go, not giving an apology go, the more angrier the person gets and the harder it becomes to repair. So in my case, I'll use my immediate family. In November of 2023, I did send an email to them saying, all of you had some level of abuse towards me. I just want to understand who hurt you so that you then hurt me. We're senior citizens. Let's just have a conversation about this before we all go and to our graves. Let's do that. And my mother's response was quite negative. Her husband and my sister never responded. Now, 18 months later, in June or July of this year, my sister is attempting to make amends, but this is what she does when she's in a relationship with somebody that cares about family. Then she wants to circle back and act like she's actual older sister, and she's not. And so, because that window of let's all get together and find out who hurt you, so you hurt me, so let's see if we could just move on in our senior citizen years. Let's see if that can happen. And so that didn't happen. And so at this point, their ability to come back and apologize is that window has closed because I don't desire to have a connection with them. I've moved on, as you can tell in the calmness of my voice. And so they are who they are. And I have to move forward and study the brain, master the brain, and teach others to do the same so that the world can be a better place. That's what I'm focused on now. So that Maslow's hierarchy of needs of level 3 of this connection with this family, this nucleus unit, is no longer something that I've desired, and I've moved all the way into self-actualization. So if you wait too long to apologize, it's going to be even harder for the person on the receiving end to receive it because of the amount of time that has passed. And so that person could have grown past it. That person could have been like, you know what, that's good. I'm good. Godspeed to you. Bless you, whatever, and move on with your life. Yep, thank you. And what you'll find is that you can move on without receiving that apology, and you just grow forward. And at what point does it even matter to you anymore? So it may be something, they may come back 5 years from now and say, hey, I'm ready to apologize to you, Dr. Donna. Can we sit down and talk? And my answer is going to be no. And here's why. Because I know that neurologically, if you don't start to use your brain and become high functioning, that behavior will not change. So you may be sorry for that moment. You might need some medical assistance. Now you need somebody to help you change your diaper or something. And now you just want somebody there because you got a bad health report or something. And I'm saying you would actually have to become a complete whole real leader in order for me to trust and believe anything else that you're saying. You have 50 years to do it correctly. So at this point, let's just go our separate ways. And that's just how I see that. Now, someone else that I meet in the future can have that ability to, because of real leadership, apologize immediately and follow the principles of real leadership, treat people with dignity and respect, and then we can move on. But the past just needs to stay in the past. Now, the neural summary table for this is that the brain region is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. The function of the apology is that it is ethical decision making, and the real leadership connection is accountability. You are being accountable for your actions, what you said or what you did. Next is the ACC, and so it monitors the conflict, and in a real leadership connection, it is the courage to admit fault. And I would like to stress that it takes courage to admit that you did or said something wrong. It takes courage to do that. So back in the day, in the 90s, when I thought apologizing meant you were weak, it actually takes courage. And that's why you are stronger for having admitted the error of your ways, because it actually takes courage in order for you to admit that you were wrong. Now, the amygdala is the brain region, and the function in an apology is emotional processing. And the real leader connection is that it regulates defensiveness. When you have done something wrong and you are apologizing to someone or some group of people, you don't get to be defensive. You did the wrong thing. You said the wrong thing. So now you don't get to defend your wrongness. That's what unaccountable people do. But when you have emotional regulations, you are not trying to defend or justify what you did. You are apologizing for what you said or what you did. In the insula, it's emotional awareness, and it's genuine empathy. What I said or what I did impacted you in a negative way. And I understand that, and I am apologizing for that because you didn't deserve that. Next, in the temporal parietal junction, perspective taking. So you're going to say, if I was on the receiving end of this, let me look back at that situation. How could it have gone differently? And so you're going to create that respect and that trust. The hippocampus, you actually have to have context recall. You can't say, I'm sorry for what I did the other day. What other day? And what did you do exactly? That's not good enough. So you have to have specificity and clarity, exactly what you did, what you said in that moment. That is what you are apologizing before, because what you're also notifying is the basal ganglia that habit and that behavior is not something that you need to keep doing. So you need to start saying it's wrong and I apologize, so you can prune that neural pathway and choose a better response in the future. And then finally, the ventral striatum, positive reinforcement. So it's a habit of resolution. When I do something wrong, I apologize. When I do something wrong, I apologize. When I say or do something wrong, I apologize. And as a result, I get a release of dopamine for having done the right thing. So what happens is, if you don't believe you should be apologizing, it's like, ugh, I'm apologizing to you, and that makes me weak, and so you don't get that because you haven't done a sincere, genuine apology. There is no release of dopamine. And that's why people say, I apologize and ain't nothing happened. Ain't shit changed, because you didn't actually do it correctly. You did it because it needed to be done. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Damn. Why you just can't get over that? You still mad about that? That's not, excuse me. No release of dopamine is going to happen behind that. So it does take courage to apologize. You need to strengthen your empathy when you apologize. You get all of these neurological benefits when you actually apologize. So those are the brain regions involved in apologizing. What questions do you have for me before I actually get into the activities that you can actually participate in to strengthen your ability to apologize? And for those of you just joining, YouTube is not allowing me to put my background in, and so the only option I have is this green screen. So if it is clear, let me know that it is clear, and I will continue to move on. Is the chat, okay, I was going to say, is the chat not working either? All right. So what we have next is the activities to strengthen your ability to apologize growing forward. So, according to Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers, Principles of Real Leadership, when you are apologizing when you are wrong is both a cognitive practice and a leadership discipline. So, strengthening your ability, this ability requires deliberate activities that engage the accountability, empathy, and self regulation circuits of the brain. And here are the activities aligned with real leadership and neuroscience. So accountability writing. And here's the activity. You're going to write down situations where you made a mistake, how you responded, and how you could have apologized differently. Now, this is extreme growth, neurological growth. These are neural pathways. You have gone to the hippocampus bank of neurons, and now you are asking for a withdrawal. Hey, yeah, so listen, I'm going to have to learn how to apologize. So I'm going to need some neurons for that because I don't have those neurons. I don't have those neurons. They're not going to fire. They're not going to wire. I ain't going to do that damn thing. So you're going to have to go get some neurons, sit down, and write down how you responded and what you could have did differently. Okay? So I'm sorry. Damn. Not a good way to apologize. Okay, that's not. It might cause an argument. It might even make the problem worse. So don't do that. Go back and look at your mistakes and what did I say and how could I have said it? Now, the other thing, as I mentioned the other day as well, is this. When you don't read nonfiction every day, you don't have the words to apologize. So you had a little weak lexicon. Your personal lexicon is really low. So now you don't even have the right words to say. So reading, communicating effectively and reading every day will allow you to go get the neurons so that you can start to work on your how to apologize when you're wrong neural pathway. And the brain region engaged in this is the prefrontal cortex for decision making and reflection. And then the real leadership principle is it builds ownership and reduces avoidance of responsibility. I was wrong. Good morning, Sean. I was wrong. Good morning, Kevin, if I didn't say that. I was wrong. And so I don't need to avoid apologizing. And when you have a big, giant ego with low confidence and low self-esteem, you are going to avoid that situation like it is the plague. Next activity is this: empathy role reversal. And so in conversations, intentionally pause and imagine the situation from the other person's perspective before responding. And when you don't have a regulated emotion system, you can't imagine it from the other person's perspective. Why is that? Because the amygdala is self-preservation. The amygdala is saying there's a threat out there and I got to choose me first. I got to seek comfort and safety for me first. So people who don't have emotional regulation can't have empathy. It is impossible for them to have empathy for you because they are protecting themselves. So that's the first thing. If you are emotionally deregulated, you got to go get some neurons from the hippocampus bank of neurons just so you can start strengthening your prefrontal cortex so you can start to have those neurons fire and wire for empathy to create that neural pathway. So now you can look at it from the other person's perspective. So if you're ever having a conversation with someone and they over there like, these men, they said, and then I did, and then you say, well, let's play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's look at the other side of that. They're going, why would I do that? Ain't nobody I ain't trying to look at it from their perspective. No, this is what they did to me. Now you know, if you were confused, the person has emotional deregulation. And so at that point, you can excuse yourself from the situation and say, all right, let me know when you'd like to actually talk about this and have an actual solution for what you did. When you want to do that, call me back. But right now, you just want to vent. You just want somebody to say you were right, even though you were actually wrong. So you need to learn how to have some empathy. And in order to do that, you have to practice role reversal. And the brain regions that are in role reversal are the temporal parietal junction and the insula. And that allows you to have perspective taking and emotional awareness. And the real leadership principle for this is to strengthen the respect and the relational trust. Treat people with dignity and respect, establish trust, and be trustworthy are the two principles of real leadership that will allow you to participate in empathy role reversal. Number 3, own it, say it, fix it. And it's a drill. Own it, say it, and fix it. So here's what you're going to do. It's a practice, a 3-step apology out loud. Own it. I was wrong when I was wrong when I. Next, say it. I'm sorry or I apologize for the impact this had on you, and then fill in the blank. And then third, fix it. Here's what I'll do differently next time. Because that's how you also know if somebody is sincere with their apology, because they have done self-reflection in their default mode network and they're saying, this behavior needs to stop, and here is what I am going to do differently. Here's what I'll do differently next time. In the event this occurs again, here's what I'm going to do. If you do not hear that from somebody apologizing to you, they are going to do it again. they are going to do it again, which is, as I mentioned earlier, with my immediate family, 50 years in, I got a lot of receipts on, no, you're going to do this again. You're going to do this again. So unless they say, here is what I'm going to do differently, here is what I'm going to do if this occurs again, it is not a sincere apology, and they will be circling back on doing it again. Now, the brain regions engaged in this activity are the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus for clarity and context recall. Because you have to say, I'm sorry for the impact this had on you when. I was wrong when I. And then the real leadership principle is make apologies specific and solution oriented. And when you're communicating effectively, you literally can say, on Thursday, June 17, 2024, here is what I did to you. And I apologize. I understand the impact. And here's what I'm going to do to ensure that that doesn't happen in the future. That's a complete own it, say it, fix it. Own it, say it, fix it. Number 4, regulating the left amygdala. Now, the activity is, before apologizing, use breathing exercises of mindfulness for 2 to 3 minutes to calm down your defensiveness. As I've mentioned, download a breathing or meditation app. Follow somebody on social media that resonates with you, because part of emotional regulation is breathing, is meditation. You are calming it down to do its actual intended job, and it's not to be defensive and defend your wrong actions. So you're going to breathe for 2 to 3 minutes. And the brain region engaged in this is the amygdala, left and right, for emotional regulation. And what happens from a real leadership perspective is that it keeps the apologies authentic and not reactive. And we know the A in Real Leaders Wear Pink is a whole section on authenticity, which we're in now. And this is the last principle in authentic. And so you want to be authentic. You want to be sincere. You want to say, I'm sorry. I mean, really, damn, like, was it that big of a deal? I'm sorry. Notice, didn't say what I did, what it impacted you, and what I'm going to do to change it and be different. So that's not a real apology, and you can keep that shit. Okay, number 5 is conflict reflection huddles. So after you have a disagreement with someone, you have this interaction, what you want to do is hold a short huddle and reflect on what went wrong, acknowledge the mistakes, and practice quick apologies. And I said this yesterday with Nola, with me, with the nasal rinse and the 2 ants and her asking me about something and how that all went. And now she apologized. Say, okay, now I understand what's taking place. So that's what you want to do after an event. Get everybody together, whether it's personal or professional. Let's understand what happened and how can we ensure that this conflict doesn't occur again. And the brain region involved in this is the ACC, and it's for conflict monitoring and error detection. And the real leader principle is it turns mistakes into learning opportunities. So as I said yesterday, it was an on-the-spot correction, and you can always learn from any situation what to do, what not to do, and what can be improved. Number 6 is gratitude and apology pairing. So the activity is, when apologizing, also thank the other person for their patience, their feedback, or their honesty. So when you are apologizing, you want to thank them. And the brain region that this is involved in is the ventral striatum. And that's, again, the reward reinforcement, and it's going to give you dopamine release. And the real leader principle that's attached to this is that it's positive emotional repair in relationships. So you are communicating effectively, and you are establishing that trust, and you are giving that person the ability to say, you know what, thank you for allowing me to be able to have this moment of reflection. I'm walking through what I said and why I said it and why I did it. I didn't even know this behavior was there. Now that I do, I can do something about it. And then last but not certainly not least is real leader apology rehearsals. And so the activity is to role play apology scenarios with a mentor or coach, focusing on tone, timing, and body language. And again, that's all part of communicating effectively. Also listening and asking questions. So if you don't know how to apologize, obviously go to the hippocampus bank of neurons and get you some neurons and start focusing on how you're going to do it. So role play with someone. If you can't find someone, go look in the mirror, role play with yourself. You can look up videos on how to apologize effectively. I'm sure there's something out there. You can even ask Chat. Chat will give you advice on a script of what to say. You can practice the script just so you can get those neurons wiring and firing, and then customize it and put it into your own words. But the brain region engaged in this is the prefrontal cortex and the insula. It's for self-monitoring and emotional alignment. And the real leader principles is that it builds habitual courage to apologize quickly and effectively. So I can apologize in an instance. I'm just like, as soon as the opportunity presents itself, I apologize. And here, in charges, people can say charge to my head, not to my heart, but this is the impact. And so we had this concept at Frito-Lay during training, the intent versus the impact. Even if you didn't intend to do it, the impact is real. So if someone says, "Oh my God, Dr. Donna, you're so articulate," they may have intended that to be a compliment, but we all know that's not a compliment. Not at all. It's not a compliment at all. Thank you for your service. Nope, nope, not a compliment. Let me explain to you why why it happened and why people say it automatically, but no. So let's educate people in that regard. So it allows you, and if I do something, so I'm very quick to say it, and other people need to be as quick to say it as well. So even though it's intended as a compliment, it is not. Okay. All right. So the bottom line is strengthening apologizing when you're wrong requires daily micro practices and that train the brain to overcome your ego. The ego is why you can't apologize. A dysregulated emotional center system in your brain with a weak prefrontal cortex is why you can't apologize consistently. It engages the empathy from the insula and the temporal parietal junctions, and you act with accountability, personal accountability, with the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. So Dr. Donna's Real Leaders transforms apologies from a weakness into a powerful act of integrity and trust building. That is the purpose of it, is you are operating in integrity. You can start with something as simple as if you are in the grocery store and you need to walk through the aisle and somebody's looking at the ketchup. You can say, "Pardon me, I need to get past." That's apologizing. Something as simple as that. Bump into somebody, so, "Oh, pardon me, my apologies." That's it. That's it. I bumped into you. I apologize. And keep it moving. So you don't have to say, "Oh, today I'm going to go and make this grand gesture and apologize for something that I did to somebody 5 years ago." Nope, you are not potentially ready for that if you don't already have the neural pathway to apologize when you're wrong. You're going to have to work your way up. Because first of all, if you waited for 5 years, you're gonna have some splaining to do in hopes that the person is there to receive it. Now, in any 12-step program, step 9 is, especially for Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, and all of that, is make amends if it's safe to do so. So in that instance, if you was a drunk for 50 years and now you're clean and sober, you got to go back and say, "Hey, I was on that bottle for 50 years and I'm on step 9. I am 90 days in, 3 years in, whatever it is, and now it's time for me to come and make amends with you. I apologize." Shoot, I already knocked mine out at the beginning of the live. Your what? Yes. It's okay. It is okay. No, there was a time when you were not going to admit that you were wrong. It's okay. All right, so what questions do you have about the activities that will strengthen your ability to apologize when you are wrong? Because I'm going to come around third with the benefits, and then we will go and talk about the brain bit for today, neuroflexibility. So if it's clear, just let me know. If it's not clear or no questions, let me know that as well, and I will continue to move forward. I'm doing great because I really worked hard this morning on my graphics that are not visible right now. So yeah, I'm happy to see this green screen behind me. So no questions. Okay. So what are the brain benefits of apologizing when you're wrong, based upon Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers and the principles of real leadership? Excellent question, chat told me. According to Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers, principles of real leadership, apologizing when you are wrong is not just a social behavior. It creates measurable neuroscience benefits that strengthens the brain's leadership circuits. So when you apologize when you are wrong, it is just not some social graces, but you are going to strengthen your brain's leadership circuits. Okay? Number 1, it's going to strengthen the prefrontal cortex and the executive control. And the benefit is this: apologizing activates the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex and the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and it enhances your judgment, your ethical reasoning, and your decision making. So, by apologizing, this simple act of apologizing, you're getting a threefer, enhancing your judgment, ethical reasoning, and decision making. And so, the leadership link is that it builds the real leader trait of personal accountability, the ability to own mistakes instead of deflecting them. You know how empowering that is? I own that. And I say personal accountability is being accountable and responsible for all that you do and all that you fail to do. And when you fail to do it, I apologize. Number two, it enhances emotional regulation in the amygdala and the ACC. So you're going to get some emotional regulation enhancement from apologizing. The benefit is this: by admitting fault, the brain reduces amygdala hyperactivity. So you're not going to be defensive and you're not going to be fearful. And it engages the anterior cingulate cortex to resolve internal conflict. So let's be clear. Well, let me say this last part. The leadership link is that it trains real leaders to remain calm under pressure and replace defensiveness with growth. So every time you apologize, and not from some unaccountable person saying, "You wrong, you need to apologize." That's not the same thing, that's gaslighting. But what happens is when you have this overactive amygdala, you can't think clearly and you can't process anything. But when you allow yourself to stop being defensive, you actually don't have cortisol released to the prefrontal cortex and you don't have brain fog. But when you won't apologize, it still sits with you. It's there, and you can drink, and you can smoke, and you can deny until die with the lies, what the old heads say, but it's still there. It's still there. You're still anxious about that thing that you did because you know that you were wrong. And you could be 10 toes down on not apologizing, but it's still eating at you. It's still sitting there, festering and growing and fermenting. So you might as well apologize to release it. You might as well just apologize and move on. Number three, because remember, the principle is apologize when you are wrong, not apologize to smooth shit over. Don't do that. Absolutely not. But when you are wrong, that's when you apologize, and that's when you get all of these benefits. Number three, it boosts your empathy networks, the insula and the temporal parietal junction. So the benefit is that apologizing engages the insula for self-awareness of discomfort. Again, apologizing is going to make you uncomfortable, but it takes courage to do it. And the temporal parietal junction is perspective taking. This strengthens your ability to sense and respond to others' emotions. And so the leadership link is that it reinforces leadership principles of respect and relational trust. Again, can't, damn, what is the word? Anyway, emphasize this enough. Respect and relational trust. Treat people with dignity and respect. Establish trust and be trustworthy are two of the principles of real leadership. And when you want to have strong relationships, and I have this post and I'm going to paraphrase it, but you want real relationships, but you still fake. So you're not going to have real, genuine people like, "Oh, I just wish I could have that. I just wish I could have that." People see Nola and I, they're like, "Oh my goodness, you all just get along so great. It just is such a great relationship. I could never work with my mother. Ooh, how you work with your mother? I could never do it." And this took effort. And people say, my mother used to say all the time, marriage is work, marriage is work, marriage is work. Any relationship that you have with another human being takes effort. It takes effort because that person is not like you. Even if you gave birth to them, they're 50% of somebody else. So it takes effort. It takes neurological effort to get this done. And the only way it improves, the hippocampus will not give you new neurons to do some regular shit. It's only going to allow you to improve and grow continually when you do something that's challenging. So having a relationship with another person is challenging. Having a trusted relationship with another person is even more challenging. Treating that person with dignity and respect is even more challenging than that. And that means that sometimes you are going to have to admit when you are wrong. And that is going to strengthen the relationship when you are in a relationship with another person that's doing the exact same thing. Next, it improves memory integration in the hippocampus. So the benefit is apologies require recalling the context of what happened and integrating that into the current behavior, as I mentioned. And this sharpens episodic memories and pattern recognition for future growth. And from a leadership perspective, it encourages learning from the mistakes rather than repeating them. You're going to learn from them. So in that 3-step drill, you're going to own it and fix it. Here is what I'm going to do growing forward so this doesn't happen to us again. Happens in this situation. So if you don't use the hippocampus to recall it correctly and then assess it and then say, you know what, going forward, I'm not getting ready to do that again. Here's how I'm going to handle that. Then it's not going to work. So it has to be a sincere apology, for real, from a neurological perspective. Number 5 is it activates the reward pathways in the ventral striatum. And the benefit is that it's successfully apologizing. So you got to be successful at apologizing, and it's going to repair the relationships, and then you're going to get your dopamine release. So if you're not successful at it, it's not sincere, you didn't do it correctly, you didn't actually recall it and fix it, no dopamine release. But when you do it as it is designed to be done, it reinforces the value of personal accountability and connection. Is actually going to make you closer to that person. And the leadership link is now it's a habit loop in the basal ganglia as well. And the brain begins to associate apologizing with positive relational outcomes. In the world today, people do not view apologizing as a good thing. The person that gets is like, yeah, and I bet you had to apologize to me. You better had to apologize to me. So it isn't a good exchange. When it's sincere, you feel it and you go, okay, cool. I felt respected. I felt heard. I felt seen. Thank you very much. And then the person apologizing gets this release. And now they have this habit that they're going to stop doing and a new habit that they've created. And then it reduces cognitive load in your default mode network. So by holding on to the guilt or the conflict, it drains your memory. And apologizing resolves cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is this: I'm behaving this way, but I believe something else, but this doesn't match. So for my mother, I use her as an example. My mother was a crackhead. I told y'all that. And my mother's rationale was, I'm not going to steal to get my crack. I'm going to go get a second job to support my crack habit. So, yep, you were honest. You didn't steal anything, but no, you missed it. Stop smoking the crack. Don't go get a second job. I just got a part-time job to support my crack habit. No. That's not how that goes, okay? But that's that cognitive dissonance. And so it frees up mental bandwidth, focus, and creativity. So I said it's eating at people. It literally is. Don't think for 1 second that it's not. And what's happening is, because of the cortisol and holding on to it, they can't think clearly. And so they're not making the best decisions possible. All you got to do is apologize. And so real leaders free their minds and stay future focused and not stuck in past conflicts, because I already apologized for that. So the bottom line is this. Dr. Donna Thomas-Rodgers shows that apologizing when wrong isn't a weakness. It's a neural strength exercise. Think of it as that. I am strengthening 7 regions in my brain every time I apologize. And it sharpens accountability, emotional intelligence, and trust circuits, making the brain and the leader more adaptable, resilient, and authentic. So what questions do you have about the benefits or anything before I move on to the brain bit? And somehow I'm in Google. Any questions? Do I need to check to see? Can someone type something to make sure that only the green screen isn't working this morning? Okay, thank you, Sean. And Lola is listening. Roger that. Okay, so today's brain bit is neuroflexibility. And here it is. So the definition of neuroflexibility is the brain's ability to adapt quickly to new information, challenges, or environments by shifting between thought patterns, perspectives, and strategies. It is mental agility that allows us to problem solve creatively, manage change, and recover from setbacks. So, the brain regions that you are using when you have neuroflexibility is the prefrontal cortex. And so it regulates the executive function, decision making, and flexibility thinking because cognitive flexibility is located in the executive function of the brain. Next is the anterior cingulate cortex, detects conflicts and helps shift your attention. The hippocampus supports learning and memory adaptation. And then the basal ganglia. Okay, Kevin, go ahead with your question. It has basal ganglia and it automates the patterns but also adapts them when needed. So here are the benefits of neuroflexibility. It enhances your problem solving and innovation. You're going to have both of those enhanced. Next, it reduces stress when facing change. So part of the reason why people can't change or are inflexible is because they lack neuroflexibility as a neural pathway. And it strengthens resilience and adaptability. So just like apologizing when you're wrong strengthens resilience and adaptability, so does neuroflexibility. And so apologizing when you're wrong is actually a neuroflex. I like that. All right, what you doing? I'm over here neuroflexing, baby. What? Yes. And it improves emotional regulation and perspective taking. And so the daily brain training for neuroflexibility is this: perspective shifts. Try solving a problem from 3 different viewpoints. And that's going to send you're going to challenge yourself. You literally are going to have to make some withdrawals from the hippocampus bank of neurons. So 3 different viewpoints. That's going to be interesting. Next, cognitive switching. So we alternate between focused tasks and creative tasks for brainstorming. And I actually do this when I'm actually preparing for the live because I am searching and researching and then I switch to make the graphics. So I'm going left hemisphere, right hemisphere in order to prepare for that. So switch between focused tasks and creative tasks. Next is learning a new skill. So you pick up a hobby outside of your comfort zone. I have a new thing that I'm doing. And I mentioned that homeowners association came and said we had to put these plants in a spot that ain't had shit in it for 14 years. So we ended up going to get some aloe vera plants and planted them in March. No, it was cold as hell, but they have been revived. And so Nola is the one, the Mississippi side of her has been the one that wants to keep the landscaping green and all these other things. And so I have taken it upon myself to water these plants every day. I went across the street to my neighbor who has he is a plantologist. I forgot what is it called when a person does plants worse in a greenhouse. I mean, he went and explained to me everything that I needed to do, and so I'm watering. He's like, as long as it's 85 degrees or above, you got to water them every day while the sun is out. And I am happy to say that these aloe vera plants are now flourishing, and so that is something that I've never grown a plant in my life, never thought about gardening or anything else, but I am learning a new skill. And then Lola, you have a question, so you can go ahead and ask the question too. Kevin, I'm gonna go ahead and finish these other 2, and then I'll look at your question. So learning a new skill. Who would ever thought that me would be gardening? Never, ever. Mind body practice. So you can do yoga, tai chi, or mindful breathing to train flexible responses. And I say I do yoga and stretch the majority of the days. If I didn't, I'd be all just bent all the hell over from all of my time spent in the military and food and beverage. And then finally, what if scenarios. Challenge yourself with alternative outcomes to a situation. And I actually have a playlist of what if, and I do what if scenarios, especially with myself and when I'm interacting with my amazing progeny. So real leadership trains neuroflexibility. Real leaders train neuroflexibility like a muscle. And every challenge is an opportunity to adapt, learn, and grow. So when you are inflexible, that's no brainer. So become more flexible. Use your neuroflexibility in the PFC, the anterior cingulate cortex, the hippocampus, and the basal ganglia, and you will reap the rewards of that flexibility. And by the way, be flexible is one of the 74 principles of real leadership as well. So you will also be strengthening that neural pathway. Okay, so Kevin. Oh yeah, I've mentioned that part, Kevin. No, my mother has switched addiction. So when I was a child, she was an alcoholic. When I was a teenager, she was a crackhead. The back half of my teenage years, she was clean and sober. And then I left to go to the Army. She actually met her husband in her treatment program. And so they got out of treat. He was in a 30-day, she was in a 4-month program. So she got out of rehab, share house, in February of 87. And he moved in with us in June of 87. And so they were clean and sober together. But then I left and went to the Army and moved away. By the time I came back, they were drinking alcohol. And so his issue was not crack. It's obviously he got some pervy issues that he need to fix. So they started drinking again. And so her current addictions are, and TV has always been her addiction, like literally, she's addicted to television. And now, as of 3 years ago, it was alcohol and pills and television. So they just both switched addiction, and then they switched to food, because that's what happens as well. So for about 7 to 8 years, they were dry drunks, which are people who are not drinking, but are not the nicest people in the world, because they actually do want to drink. And so, no, they have not switched addictions. And so that's why finally I just had to sever ties, because they're going to go to their grave addicts. There will be times, because I told y'all she took my pills from my stomach surgery, but she has a way of going to the doctor. And so she knows how to get different pain medications so she can have a pill cocktail. And so there will be times when we will go over there and she'll be 50 different stages of high, to the point where she has taken so many pills that she will be knocked out on the couch with the screen door open and the front door open in the middle of the day, knocked out, sleep. And you got to shake her and wake her up. Additionally, because she inherited epilepsy from my grandfather, Arthur Jethro Evelyn II, now she started having seizures and refused to stop drinking. So then she couldn't drive anymore. So she gonna take that to the grave. And that's another reason why we went absolutely 1000% no contact, because they are about to be 76 this year. All right, Lola is not using my brain. Oppositely, if I'm saying I'm sorry when I know I'm wrong by saying it and just moving on. I think I understand your question. So if you are, I'm using my brain. Yes. When you are saying you're sorry, it's for something that you did consciously or unconsciously. So you are wrong. So the other day I snapped at Nola. I was sitting at the table and I just snapped at her, perimenopause. But I realized, I was like, there was no reason for that. So I apologized immediately and said, I'm sorry for snapping at you. That was misdirected anger. So any woman that's in their 40s or 50s, perimenopause, menopause on the other side, it will just show the fuck up and act crazy. So, and for no reason at all, out of the blue. It's like, I was sitting at the table eating lunch. Like, what the hell is wrong with me? So then I had to go back and apologize for that. So when you have actually done something wrong, intentionally or unintentionally. So if I say something offensive, like I'm trying to understand everybody's religious preferences. So if I say something wrong that doesn't match your religious preference, and I'm being made aware of it, then I will apologize, because I will say, oh, I did not know. I apologize for that. Never meant to offend you or your religious preferences. I apologize. Conversely, unaccountable people will make you apologize if you're holding them accountable. So my mother wants me to apologize to her because she married a pervert, because they're addicts, and because they're terrible parents and grandparents. She wants me to apologize for calling all of them out for the abuse that I endured from her husband, and my sister. I'm not apologizing for that, because that's facts. So why would I apologize for being abused differently by all three of them? No reason for me to apologize. I can seek first to understand. I can have empathy and say hurt people. So who hurt y'all? And then that caused y'all to hurt me. I just want clarity in the situation so that we can all go to our graves having known why they behaved in that manner. So that's what's taking place for me from that perspective. So when someone is trying to force you to apologize for them because you're holding them personally accountable, do not apologize. So I will not apologize for any, because everything, I gave them the opportunity to resolve this privately. And now I'm not giving them the opportunity, and I'm not going to die with their secrets. There's a saying in Al-Anon that says you're as sick as your secrets. So I'm not going to die with the lie. If you're out here telling people I'm a mean, venomous, horrible person because that protects your ego and your image, then I'm out here telling people factually based information. At some point, the truth may show up, but I'm going to live my truth. Because the other part is when I'm holding on to their lies, it's stopping me. It's causing cortisol in my brain. And I can't be my complete self because I'm saying I'm not, well, I can't tell them that they addicts. I can't say that in public. Your mom was a crackhead in the song Your Mama's on Crack Rock was out when my mama was on crack. I can't say that. But now I'm not living my truth because if I come across somebody who says their parents were addicts and I go, oh, okay. Well, my sister is an addict, or I have my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, and I go, that's unfortunate. Then I'm being dishonest because I have that in my family. So be honest is one of the 74 principles of real leadership. Establish trust and be trustworthy. I have to tell y'all the whole truth. Otherwise, I'm not living the principles of real leadership. Sean, you said question. You answered my questions with no contact, like a complete cutout. I am in a similar situation, but dealing with my daughter, and my sister upholds her to continue to gaslight her for manipulative acts. So any family member that is, or anybody that you have that you're in contact with that is suffering from alcoholism or some type of addiction, we went to Al-Anon. So when we broke contact with my sister, we went to Al-Anon. And Antonio Fargas, Huggy Bear from Starsky and Hutch, or the store owner on Everybody Hates Chris, he was in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker. That was, at one point, we had a relationship here in Las Vegas, a professional relationship. And so once I severed the relationship with my sister, he knew my sister was getting ready to go out. He told her to start going to meetings 8 months before I knew what was taking place. She didn't. So then he told me that I need to go to Al-Anon. And so I went to Al-Anon on November 5th, 2013. Nola went to Alateens. And so you have to go there for you because it's addicts will make you feel bad about their addiction. They will say, I can't help myself. And so you start being an enabler, but you are in recovery as well because you're recovering from what they did. So they call them your qualifiers. So my sister was actually my qualifier, not my mother, because she's the reason why I went to go sit in those rooms and work through those 12 steps. So you might think you don't need to be in a 12 step, but yes, you do, because of all the behaviors that you have and all of the acquiescing that you do when you actually have an active addict in your life. Even if they're no longer in your life, they were. And so in order for you to become this high functioning person and wire your brain to better cognitive places, you're going to have to go in and dig all that shit up. And so that's the other reason why we went no contact, because it was ridiculous. And my cousin here, he works at Nevada, whatever. So he distributes alcohol. He sells it into all the stores. So he bought them a wine refrigerator for their garage. And now it's sitting on a counter. Because at first they used to just do it when they went out. Then they might have a bottle when somebody comes from out of town and give it to them. And now they have basically a fully stocked liquor consortium of such. And so I'm like, well, we don't participate in that. So y'all can kick rocks and go away. Lola said, I have a habit of apologizing when I know I'm not in the wrong, because when I know they're in their amygdala and can't get out of it, I say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Stop doing that, Lola. Stop. Because what you're doing is, remember, amygdalas are fight, flight, freeze, or appease. And what you're doing is you're appeasing them. And so you're strengthening their emotional deregulation. Stop doing that. Do not, if you are not wrong. Notice the principle of real leadership is apologize when you are actually wrong, intentionally or unintentionally, when you are wrong. But unaccountable people, because of their big ego, they're never going to apologize, because it takes courage to apologize when you are wrong, which is why my immediate family is not apologizing for what they actually did. Because when you apologize for when you're wrong, you have to do self-reflection. You have to look at yourself. And because my family is not going to stop their behavior, remember in that 3-step process of apologizing, they're not going to fix their defect of character. They're not going to do it. That's why they're not actually going to apologize. So no, do not apologize when you are not wrong, because now you are appeasing and you are strengthening their hijacked amygdala. So you weaken it by saying, I did nothing wrong. And you can present the facts to the people. Here are the facts. There's nothing for me to apologize because I didn't do anything wrong. Nola said, I know you don't like confrontation, but that's not handle conflict when it occurs. You standing on I didn't do anything wrong is standing up for yourself. You're putting your foot down and you're keeping it down. And people know that you don't like confrontation. So that's why they're telling you to apologize. What is that doing to you neurologically? So let's follow this neurologically. You're apologizing for something that you didn't do. That means that you are not being honest. And so now that actually means that you are lying. So you're not a liar. So why are you apologizing for something you actually didn't do? So would you prefer handling conflict when it occurs and being honest, or would you prefer being dishonest and not establishing trust and being trustworthy and lying to yourself? So when you start lying to yourself, now you are in emotional deregulation because you don't like how the lying feels either. So you got to ask yourself, do I want to handle this conflict, or do I want to keep lying to myself? Because one of them is impacting you more than the other. So it's not conflictual. They're the ones that's making it conflictual because they're wrong and they don't want to admit that they're wrong. So they are forcing you to appease for you to be wrong. And then then the issue never resolves itself. So handle conflict when it occurs is how you resolve it and you fix whatever that is that's taking place. All right, so what did you learn today and what did you learn about yourself? And Nola's putting that in. I learned that part of being able to apologize is having empathy. And Nola said, I learned about myself. I don't have a hard time apologizing anymore. You don't. So yes, Lola, every time you do that, you are lying. So yeah, I know you don't want to be a liar. And the reason, and part of where this is coming from too. So Kevin, let me know if I answered your question. And then what did you learn today and what did you learn about yourself? So I'm in the process of filing for my disability in the military. My lawyer is prepping for what the things that I need to do as I start having these VA examinations. And the one thing, and I'm probably going to cry, I'm trying not to, but the one thing is I'm like, I ain't disabled. All these people walking around here talking about they disabled and all of this. And so what was instructed to me was this simple thing. He said, if you don't go in there talking about you're in more pain than you are. And then he said, don't lie about the amount of pain that you're in. I got joint pain in all of my joints, all of them, and did not realize that it's service connected and I'm in pain every day. Nola didn't even know it. I'm like, joint pain. So right now with me sitting here, both my elbows and my shoulders and my knees hurt. And it doesn't matter that it's not 10, because what the military teaches you is to suck it up and drive on. So I have been sucking it up and driving on. And he said, that's dishonest too. So not being honest about the amount of pain that you are experiencing is just as bad as saying, I got too much pain. But when you are a soldier, when you are hua, you don't say, damn, my back hurts. Dang, my neck hurts. I actually have a concussion. I actually hit my head and don't remember. That's in my medical records. I don't even remember when it happened. Literally have brain trauma. Have no idea what took place, when it took place, or where it occurred, but it occurred. And so I'm just walking around here like I'm normal. And there are literally, I think, 14, 15 injuries that I actually have that are service connected, but I suck it up and drive on. So being dishonest about what's actually taking place. And that's what I'm telling you, Lola, you're lying to yourself, saying, okay, well, I don't want to handle this conflict. And I get that. And I understand it because I don't want to admit after 5.5 years being in the Army, I'm physically not the same person that I was when I went in, but I physically have pain. I literally have rhinitis and sinusitis from the doggone Army. Didn't know it at all. Didn't. Slight depression, not PTSD, but slight depression. Didn't know it because they said suck it up and drive on. So I'm saying unaccountable people will have you doing all of these things and acquiescing in all these different ways because it makes them better. Then they don't have, the Army doesn't have to admit, I'm injured, I'm disabled. So it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're not in pain. Well, how much pain? Pain is pain. Does it matter if it's a 1 or a 10 if you got joint pain? Didn't know that. So that's why I'm saying unaccountable people have us feeling and doing things that are not advantageous for us because it makes them feel better. It doesn't hold them accountable for their actions. And so, yes, I am going to go to all of these appointments and I am going to recall everything that took place that has my body not being in physical shape. I have to stretch every day or I wouldn't be able to do none of this. If I just sat still, it wouldn't work. So Sean says, I learned that to not apologize to them and to help yourself grow on truth by coming off of the toxicity that kept doing over and over again. I've learned to remove myself to grow. Kevin says, today it takes courage to admit what you did or said something wrong. Yes. So Lola, don't do that because I am underplaying what actually took place physically, and that's lying too. That's being dishonest too. So do not apologize when you did nothing wrong. That's the moral of the story. Just be objective and keep everything on the facts. The fact is I went in healthy and functioning and I came out not healthy and not high functioning. And it makes me feel weak to say that. Lola, thanks. I'll get better with it. I be feeling that I don't have time to fix them. I learned to get better with it. You're not actually fixing them. You're actually holding them accountable. And you can say, let's agree to disagree. And then you can execute a about face and move out smartly. You can say, okay, cool, got it, roger that. But here are the facts. So if you just start with here are the facts and now here are the receipts. If you want to use the street terminology, go ahead and say, here are the receipts. Here are the facts. Kevin said, myself, I have to do better at being clear and specific when apologizing. Yes, and you do that by reading every day, Kevin. So sometimes you can't apologize, and I'm saying this because of your battle buddy. You don't have the lexicon. You don't have enough words in your personal vocabulary to apologize effectively. So paying attention more, but then also being able to use the correct amount of words to be empathetic to clearly state on Thursday, June 12th, 1972, here's what actually took place. That's what's actually happening. Okay. All right. So going forward, understand that you're going to be strengthening 7 different brain regions when you apologize. You are doing it because it is a neurological superpower. And it takes courage to do it every single time. Every time you do it, you benefit in those brain regions. And when you do it correctly, the people on the receiving end know that you are actually sincere and empathetic, and it strengthens that relationship with respect and trust. On this day, I feel a relief in what I have been holding. Thank you all. I don't feel alone. Our pleasure, Sean. Definitely. This is, and I want this for the world, not just over here, but everywhere we go, everywhere that you all go. None of us live in the same, I mean, Nola and I are, but everybody else lives somewhere else. And you have a different functionality. We're all different ages, different genders, different everything. And so we can, and that's what this shows me, is that the brain is still the brain. The brain did not stop being the brain because I just turned 52. Kevin's going to be 52 next month. It's not. The brain is still the brain. So when we can all learn how to use this amazing organ that we have, the next generations coming behind us don't have to keep recovering from the same neurological shit again and again and again. Thanks. So make it about it fits my own brain. Yes. That's what this is about. This is for your brain. Personal accountability is for you. That's why personal is in front of it. Accountability means you're not going to harm other people. You're going to pay your bills on time, pay your taxes. Yes, and all of that. But personal accountability says, I'm going to be the baddest mofo walking the face of the planet. I'm going to be at my best because I'm going to be personally accountable and responsible for all that I do and all that I fail to do. I'm going to do self-reflection in my default mode network. I'm going to use my brain and all 86 billion neurons to create 86 trillion synaptic connections customized for me so that I will be this total, whole, complete person until the day after I'm no longer physically here. That's what this is about, accessing your best. So if it does not benefit your brain, it's got to go away. Don't participate in brain drain. Absolutely not. Y'all can have that shit. I'm good. Beneficial. Think of it from a diet perspective. You want to have a healthy diet so your body can function correctly. You want to have a healthy brain so your brain can function correctly. So anything toxic, anything bad, anything wrong, kick that shit to the curb. Miss me with all that nonsense and bullshit. Okay, so very effective live this morning. Apologizing when you are wrong gives you strength. It does not make you a punk, it makes you a real leader. And it gives you courage to be able to self assess, self regulate, and say this action was wrong. And most importantly, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to resolve it within myself so that I can keep going forward. So they say that the apology is for the other person. It is, but neurologically, it's for you to grow forward, grow better, and become a better person. So thank you for your time today and learning about this principle of real leadership, taking this information, creating new firing wirings of synaptic connections. Go to the hippocampus bank of neurons today and make a withdrawal, get you about 100,000, 200,000 neurons, and go create some new synaptic connections today so that you can work towards that 860 trillion. Do it every day and you'll be there before you know it. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, safe space, different brain t-shirt. And hopefully you too will be cooperative and we will actually have the brain background that I actually created. But you all go off and have a brain-tastic day. Take care. And that's not cutting off. There we go.